Hello, everyone. I'm Kamraun.
And I'm Billy. Welcome to the Horse Frog Podcast, home of your two favorite professional digressors.
Today, we will be discussing Book 3, Chapter 19 of Memories of Ice, a novel in the Malazan Book of the Fallen. This is part 2 of our coverage of this chapter.
This podcast series is intended to be a companion to reading or listening to the books set in the Malazan universe. It's not a book review, and it's most definitely not intended to be a replacement to reading the books. Kamraun and I both know that this series is the best fantasy story ever written, and we're approaching this from a purely fanboy point of view, and there'll be no providing of literary critique, at least not about this series.
We'll be covering the events of the books in a linear fashion. There will be spoilers for those that haven't read the books. We'll try not to spoil anything prior to us covering that portion of the respective book.
And a quick warning, today's episode contains descriptions of adult topics and it's not suitable for children.
That was real short today.
Yeah. It was not much to say about
I was shocked with how short that warning was.
I should have added the disclaimer of when has it ever been suitable for children?
Yeah, I was waiting for more and then I was like, oh, wait, that is adequate this week. We don't really have a ton. Okay.
Adequate, sir.
It is exactly what is required. No more, no less.
Ow.
It was not meant as a dig. Let's be clear.
I know.
Moving along.
Moving along, sir.
Our show is listener supported. If you'd like to support us, we'd really appreciate it. You can do so by visiting our Patreon link on our website at horsefrogproductions.com. Currently, we're posting ad-free episodes on Patreon weekly.
Also, we'd really like to hear from you, and we'd really do mean that. So send any feedback or comments that you have to contact@horsefrogproductions.com.
All right, Chapter 19, Part 2. We pick up the chapter immediately after Rake spotted the women of the Dead Seed on the battlefield. Rake, in dragon form, flying now at a man's height over the ground, sembled, blurred as he closed on the witches, reformed into the Lord of Moonspawn, who strode towards the old women, hand reaching up to draw his sword. Whiskey Jack said, Corlat. Corlat said, I'm sorry, Whiskey Jack. Whiskey Jack said, he's going to... Corlat interrupted, I know. Whiskey Jack stared in horror as Rake reached the first woman, a scrawny, hunchbacked hag, half the Tistandee's height, and swung Dragnapur. Her head dropped to the ground at her feet on a stream of gore. The body managed an eerie sidestep as if dancing, then crumpled. Rake walked to the next woman. Whiskey Jack said, no, this is not right. Corlat said, please. Ignoring Corlat's plea, Whiskey Jack spurred his horse forward, down the slope at a canter, then a gallop as they reached the ground level. Another woman was slain, then a third before Whiskey Jack arrived, sawing his reins to bring his horse to a skidding halt directly in Rake's path. Rake was forced to halt his stride. He looked up in surprise, then frowned. Whiskey Jack grated, stop this. He realized he still held his sword unsheathed. Rake's unhuman eyes casually noted it before he replied, to one side, my friend. What I do is a mercy. Whiskey Jack said, no, it is a judgment, Animander Rake. And, eyes on Dragnapur's black blade, he said, a sentence. Rake's answering smile was oddly wistful. He said, if you would have it as you say, Whiskey Jack. Nonetheless, I claim the right to judgment of these creatures. Whiskey Jack said, I will not oppose that, Animander Rake. Rake said, it is the sentence, then. Whiskey Jack said, it is. Rake sheathed his sword, then said, then it must be by your hand, friend, and quickly, for they recover their powers. Whiskey Jack flinched in his saddle. He said, I am no executioner. Rake said, you'd best become one or step aside, now. Whiskey Jack wheeled his horse round. The 7 remaining women were indeed regaining their senses, though he saw in the one nearest him a glaze of incomprehension lingering still in her aged, yellowed eyes. Whiskey Jack thought, Hood take me. He kicked his mount into motion, readied his blade in time to drive its point into the nearest woman's chest. Dry skin parted almost effortlessly. Bones snapped like twigs. The victim reeled back, fell. Pushing his horse on, Whiskey Jack shook the blood from his sword, then, reaching the next woman, he swung crossways, opened wide her throat. He forced a cold grip onto his thoughts, holding them still, concentrated on the mechanics of his actions. No errors. No pain-stretched flaws for his victims. Precise executions, one after another, instinctively guiding his horse, shifting his weight, readying his blade, thrusting or slashing as was required. One, then another, until, swinging his mount around, he saw that he was done. It was over. His horse stamping as it continued circling, Whiskey Jack looked up, to see One Arm's host lining the ridge to his left, the space between them littered with trampled bodies but otherwise open, unobstructed. His soldiers, lining the ridge, silent. Whiskey Jack thought, to have witnessed this, now I am indeed damned. From this, no return. No matter what the words of explanation, of justification, no matter the crimes committed by my victims, I have slain. Not soldiers, not armed opponents, but creatures assailed by madness, stunned senseless, uncomprehending. He turned, stared at Animander Rake. Rake returned the regard without expression. Whiskey Jack thought, "This burden. You have taken it before, assumed it long ago, haven't you? This burden that now assails my soul. It is what you live with, have lived with for centuries. The price for the sword on your back." Rake quietly said, "You should have left it with me, friend. I might have insisted, but I would not cross blades with you. Thus," he added with a sorrowful smile, "the opening of my heart proves once more a curse, claiming those I care for, by virtue of that very emotion. Would that I had learned my lesson long ago. Do you not agree?" Whiskey Jack managed to say, "It seems we have found something new to share." Rake's eyes narrowed. He said, "I would not have wished it." Whiskey Jack held hard on his control. He said, "I know. I'm sorry I gave you no choice." They regarded each other. After a moment, Rake said, "I believe Corlat's kin have captured this Anaster. Will you join me in attending him?" Whiskey Jack flinched. Rake said, "No, my friend. I yield judgment of him. Let us leave that to others, shall we?" Whiskey Jack thought, "In proper military fashion, you mean. That rigid structure that so easily absolves personal responsibility. Of course, we've time for that now, haven't we?" He said, "Agreed, Lord. Lead on, if you please." Another faint, wistful smile. Rake strode past him. Whiskey Jack sheathed his bloodied sword and followed. He stared at Rake's broad back, at the weapon that hung from it. He thought, "Animander Rake, how can you bear this burden that has so thoroughly broken my heart? But no, that is not what so tears at me. Lord of Moonspawn, you asked me to step aside, and you called it a mercy. I misunderstood you. A mercy not to the women of the Dead Seed, but to me. Thus your sorrowed smile when I denied you. Ah, my friend, I saw only your brutality, and that hurt you. Better for us both had you crossed blades with me. For us both. And I am not worth such friends. Old man, foolish gestures plague you. Be done with it. Make this your last war. Make it your last." I really feel for both of them here. It's such a difficult situation that they were both put in. The fact that the women of the Dead Seed were regaining their power really put a timer on the situation and didn't give either of them a way out.
Oh, absolutely. It was really nasty because I guess we've both, since we've not really know what to think about the women of the Dead Seed, we didn't realize how powerful, obviously I speak for myself, I did not realize how powerful they were. Enough of a situation, enough of a problem to merit Rake his personal involvement, in taking these ladies out. That's a pretty big deal. That was something wild. And in a weird way, I kind of forget about this scenario. I never forget the after effects, but I kind of forget about the quick scenario that leads up to it.
Do you think that he felt it was necessary to use Dragnapur on them because of that revulsion that Corlat had? It seems like a cultural thing about the cannibalism, almost like these women were partially responsible for the madness of the Teniscari horde, and they wanted to punish that because they said there were old rules around this type of behavior.
That could very well be. Since Rake doesn't seem to just draw Dragnapur just willy-nilly, it's not a common day occurrence. I'm just curious if it's just like threat levels of this magnitude just always go in the blade. Just out of lessons learned in the past. It's like, we're just not going to have none of that action. But it could be that, but it could also be part of the cultural taboo. Because that's a pretty nasty thing. It's one that digs at our personal Western ideas here. Very much so. That when you think about it, that's one we still kind of like, ooh, we still kind of recoil. Very much at that.
Yeah. I was thinking about whether or not Rake has ever carried more than one weapon. He would choose to use Dragnapur in certain situations or the other weapon in another, because it almost seems like you don't always have to permanently condemn someone to damnation with Dragnapur.
Yeah, I think a lot of times what it is probably Kamraun, he just doesn't use a weapon. Most of the time, he just probably obliterates them with sorcery or sheer force of just I'm sure he could probably punch through people.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he probably kills a lot of people just like that, or just with magic more than anything. I'm sure he kills more with magic than with Dragnapur.
That's a good point. He tried to do it with the breath when he was in dragon form. Didn't work, so this was his alternate. Maybe he had to use it.
Yeah, I'm thinking he had no options here. And also for that comment there, going back to Whiskey Jack there, about sparing him, dude, that's amazing.
Yeah. Rake's comment about opening his heart again and causing pain to others is really sad to me, on your point about this. This ties into that conversation we had regarding our listener Grunnell's comment about the attendant responsibilities of someone ruling an empire. It's almost like you can't have any friends because you have to sit above all of that and look at what's best for everyone. And sometimes that means making great personal sacrifices so that no one else has to bear the burden of the decisions you make or the actions that come as a result of them.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly with that sentiment. I don't have a whole lot to add to that.
Yeah, well, you did bring up the fact that Whiskey Jack was hurt by this exchange. And I think I was kind of piggybacking on your comment there a little bit.
Yeah, the thing that it impresses me with the Whiskey Jack thing, I'm just kind of thinking about the fact that with Whiskey Jack, I mean, think about the personality he has to make someone like Rake, who we hold in such high esteem, to be this like trying to spare a person he says, I care for you. I mean, he just laid it out for him right there. For people I care about. Trying to help people I care about. It's like, wow, he really likes Whiskey Jack. That says an awful lot. That's kind of what I was getting about the Whiskey Jack thing. I'm just kind of impressed by how much Whiskey Jack makes everyone loyal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He can't help it.
Everyone but Cowler, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and on the topic of Whiskey Jack, the split seconds he had to make this decision put him in an absolutely impossible situation. His morals wouldn't allow him to act any other way, so he chose to bear the burden personally to spare those women eternal imprisonment. And he will pay for it with the stain on his soul for the rest of his life. I feel that a lesser man would find some circuitous logic to justify his own actions, but Whiskey Jack has such a strong moral compass that he will own what he did in the fullest way, with no diminishment to how horrible the actions were.
Yeah. Absolutely. And this kind of goes to what we're talking about. This is what engenders this honor and love for people around him to him, is because he does what is right, or what he sees is right, whatever be damned, he does the right thing. It's amazing, dude. He's amazing.
Yeah, and finally, it really surprises me that through all his experience in war, I mean, he's been a soldier for at least 30 years probably.
Yeah.
Maybe longer. He's never encountered a similar situation before where he was torn this morally. I mean, this feels like it's the first time that he was ever put in this much of a bad situation.
It might be, but in some ways, I'm just kind of curious if it's just that maybe he's faced something like this in the past, but just not with this ticking clock element added in, where it's like, man, you better answer like right now. Because it's about to get really nasty here real fast.
Right. If you don't do something, hundreds of people are going to die.
Yeah. Yeah. So that adds a different element to it. Instead of being able to take the time to agonize over it and think about it and think about doing the right thing, it's like the right thing is stopping them from being eternally imprisoned and dragged of her.
Yeah. Corlat waited with her Tistandi kin, surrounding the gaunt figure that was Anastor at a place near where the youth had landed when thrown by Rake. Whiskey Jack saw tears in his lover's eyes, and the sight of them triggered a painful wrench in his gut. He forced himself to look away. Although he needed her now, and perhaps she in turn needed him to share all that she clearly comprehended, it would have to wait. He resolved to take his lead from Rake, for whom control was both armor and, if demanded by circumstance, a weapon. That is an impressive amount of discipline on Rake's part. And I guess he's had enough time to practice in the countless millennia that he's been alive.
Yeah. A question for me is, I'm wondering if it gets harder the longer he lives, kind of, instead of becoming cold or indifferent, these kind of decisions that get harder for him because he actually has things he cares for differently if the longer he's alive. Because most of us feel that way the longer that we live. Imagine that blown out to this magnitude, or does he get, I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I would be curious as well, but that's one of those things where we'll never know.
Yeah.
He's such an alien being. How could you know what somebody that's been alive that long feels?
Yeah, no idea. No idea whatsoever, because it's just, like you said, it's so alien.
Yeah, because you do bring up a good point. People, as they age, they could go one of two ways, where they don't care about anything, or they realize the importance of certain aspects of life, and they dive more fully into that.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I always go with the old Blade Runner ethic, the Blade Runner ethos of Roy at the end, where he saves Harrison Ford. Sorry, again, people, if you've not seen Blade Runner from 1982, if I've spoiled something, that's your fault. That's your fault. That's just your fault, people, and you'll have to own that. But
I need to give you,
exactly
you a bell, so you could just be shame.
Oh, for shame on you for not seeing this wonderful movie. But that end bit there with, where that, it's like Roy, the cold-blooded monster, becomes the hero in a weird way at the end because of his love for all life at the end. And it's kind of like, something like that with Ray could be more magnified. It's also very alien. Like you said, it's just so alien, it's hard to know. And you're right, we'll never know.
Yeah. Riders were approaching from the Malazan position, as well as from Broods. There would be witnesses to what followed. Whiskey Jack thought, and that I now curse such truths is true revelation of how far I have fallen. When, before, did I ever fear witnesses to what I did or said? Queen of Dreams, forgive me. I have found myself in a living nightmare, and the monster that stalks me is none other than myself. Reining his horse to a halt before the gathered Tistandee, Whiskey Jack was able to examine Anaster closely for the first time. Disarmed, bruised and blood-smeared, his face turned away. He looked pitiful, weak and small. Whiskey Jack thought, but that is always the way with leaders who have been broken, whether kings or commanders. Defeat withers them. And then he saw the youth's face. Something had gouged out one of his eyes, leaving a welter of deep red blood. The remaining eye lifted, fixed on Whiskey Jack, intent yet horrifyingly lifeless, a stare both cold and casual, curious yet vastly, fundamentally indifferent. Anaster cocked his head to study Whiskey Jack, and in a lilting voice said, "The slayer of my mother." Whiskey Jack's voice was hoarse. He said, "I am sorry for that first child." Anaster said, "I am not. She was insane, a prisoner of herself, possessed by her own demons. Not alone in that curse, we must presume." Whiskey Jack said, "Not anymore." Anaster said, "It is as a plague, is it not? Ever spreading, devouring lives. That is why you will, ultimately, fail. All of you. You become what you destroy." The tone of Rake's response was shockingly vulgar. He said, "No more appropriate words would come from a cannibal. What, Anaster, do you think we should do with you? Be honest now." Anaster swung his singular gaze to Rake. Whatever self-possession he contained seemed to falter suddenly with that contact, for he reached up a tentative hand to hover before the bloodied eye socket, and his pale face grew paler. He whispered, "Kill me." Rake frowned and said, "Corlat?" Corlat said, "Aye." He lost control then. "His fear has a face, one that I have not seen before." Anaster turned on her and shouted, "Shut up! You saw nothing!" Corlat said, "There is darkness within you, virulent cousin to Cruald Ghislaine, a darkness of the soul. When you falter, child, we see what hides within it." Anaster hissed, "Liar!" Rake said, "A soldier's face." He slowly faced westward, then said, "From the city, from Kapustan." He turned back to Anaster, then said, "He is still there, isn't he? It seems, mortal, that you have acquired a nemesis, one who promises something other than death, something far more terrible." "Interesting." Anaster shouted, "You do not understand! He is Itkovian! Shield Anvil! He wishes my soul! Please kill me!" Man, Itkovian really got in this guy's head. And not even in a malicious way. I don't think Itkovian means to do anything but help Anaster. Imagine being able to affect people this much as an opponent. This is like a side digression, but a lot of arm wrestling videos have come up in my feed recently, and it's funny watching how some competitors like Devin Larratt use psychological manipulation to help get their opponents off balance. People would absolutely kill to have the power of fear Anaster has from Itkovian in competitive situations.
Oh my word. So it's kind of like the New Zealand All Blacks.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it's a very similar principle. Yes.
They have that but I agree very much.
You want to tell people what that is?
Oh, it's the rugby, right?
Yes, it's the rugby team. They do the haka.
Yeah, they get everything. It's a Maori war dance, right? A Maori war dance?
Yes.
Yeah, they get very next level of aggressors as far as rugby players go. And I've not watched a lot of players, but these guys kind of generate this fear that I only know from Monty Python skits. And it's just like, oh my gosh, it's like pants-wetting terror if you have to play these guys in rugby. What's funny with Anaster, in his case, I'm like you, it's so weird to think that Itkovian got into his head like this, and Itkovian is meant this as a mercy, correct?
Yeah, he was going to take all of his sadness, all of his troubles, everything. He was going to take all of that.
And I guess since that is all that Anaster thinks that he is, I guess that would be pretty horrifying to think that, maybe he would cease to exist. But I don't believe that to be the case. But he is, and they said something there that would really intrigue me, kind of hidden in there about something, the virulent cousin of Cruald Ghislaine is in his soul. So something, that means like some kind of manipulation also is holding him to this, possibly. And I'm assuming, but where does it come from? Is it from the women of the dead seed, or is it from the seer directly? I mean, which is which? Are they all interlinked? I'm assuming it's all interlinked.
So this is pure speculation, but I look at him as the flip side to Itkovian on a coin, where Itkovian is making something new with his behavior. He's moved on from being just the shield anvil of Feanor, and by taking all of these things upon himself, he's possibly in the process of becoming an ascendant.
Right.
Anaster seems to be the counterpoint to that, where it's like the negative version
Yeah.
almost. And if you look at it that way, and I don't know if this is right or not, but the way I feel is like he's almost his own thing in that he's so much negative that he's created like a new Warren that's adjacent to Kurald Ghislaine, that's like the emo darkness Warren, if you will.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
he like invented it basically.
we've talked about this, I think, last episode or so, that I may have said something similar, was curious about the Women of the Dead Seed. Had they created their own Warren of types by just their sheer madness, and as it goes on and getting crazier, it's, is this something that they have created their own type of Warren?
Maybe it's like the nihilist Warren.
Yeah.
The Warren of nothing.
Some negative waves, Moriarty Warren. I had a soap check moment at work today.
Tell me.
It was when I got to work, I was told that someone was going to be returning something. One of the store managers told me this. It's a brand new item, never been used. Instead, they still have the box for it, which, okay, we're not supposed to ever do that unless the manager tells you so. So this old man brings his shoes in. He's been wearing it for the past 2 months.
Oh my gosh.
It just don't fit. His feet hurt him, I guess. And I guess he expected us to have a 90-day return policy. And so I called her up there. I'm like, you want to come take a look at this? And so she's like, oh yeah, just take care of it. And, and I've been my temper's been fantastic. I've been great. But I'm like, when they walk off, my friend Bob's up there. He's another manager. I'm like, am I the only one that gives a crap about the rules? It's so he's not seen the movie, though, so it's just lost on him. I'm like,
oh, man.
I hate you, Bobby.
I wasn't there for you, Billy.
Oh.
I used to get so upset about that. It was a turning point for me when I realized if the company doesn't care, I don't care.
And that's me.
Why care about their own rules if they themselves don't care about their own rules?
Precisely. That's what's got me. I've been so good. It's my Friday. I've had a long week. It's my Friday. I had a weak moment. I've usually been pretty good. Because I'm like you. It's like, if they don't care, they're paying me to do this stuff. Whatever. Hey, you're paying me good money. Whatever. Sure. Yeah.
I'm sorry I wasn't there for you, Billy. At least you would have had somebody laughing at your joke.
Exactly.
I laughed in spirit.
I know. I felt you, sir.
Dujek and Caladan Brood had arrived from the Allied lines, as well as Calor and Artanthos. They sat on their horses, watchful, silent. After a moment, Rake said, perhaps we will, in time. For now, we will take you with us to Kapustan. And this is in response to Anastar asking them to kill him. Anastar begged, no, please, kill me now. Rake said, I see no absolution in your particular madness, child. No cause for mercy. Not yet. Perhaps upon meeting the one Itkovian, who so terrifies you, we will judge otherwise, and so grant you a swift end. As you are our prisoner, that is our right. You might be spared your nemesis after all. He faced Brood and the others and said, acceptable? Eyes on Whiskey Jack, Dujek growled, aye. Brood said, agreed. Anastar made a desperate attempt to snatch a dagger from a Tistandi warrior beside him, which was effortlessly denied. The youth collapsed then, weeping down onto his knees, his thin frame racked by heaves. Rake studied Anastar and said, best take him away. This is no act. That much was plain to everyone present. Whiskey Jack nudged his horse to come alongside Dujek. Dujek nodded in greeting, then muttered, that was damned unfortunate. Whiskey Jack said, it was. Dujek said, from the distance it looked. Whiskey Jack said, it looked bad, High Fist, because it was. Dujek said, understand, Whiskey Jack, I comprehend your mercy. Rake's sword. But, damn it, could you not have waited? Explanations, sound justifications crowded Whiskey Jack's mind, but all he said was, no. Dujek said, executions demand procedures. Whiskey Jack said, then strip me of my rank, sir. Dujek winced, looked away. He sighed roughly and said, that's not what I meant, Whiskey Jack. I know well enough the significance of such procedures. The real reason for their existing in the first place. A sharing of necessary but brutal acts. In a low tone, Whiskey Jack said, diminishes the personal cost. Aye. No doubt Animander Rake could have easily managed those few souls added to his legendary list, but I took them instead. I diminished his personal cost. A paltry effort, granted, and one he asked me not to do. But it is done now. The issue is ended. Dujek grated, the issue is anything but. I am your friend. Whiskey Jack interrupted and said no. He thought, we're not at risk of crossing blades, so there won't be any sharing of this one. He repeated, no, and thought, not this time. He could almost hear Dujek's teeth grinding. I feel bad for Dujek here. He's just trying to help.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is another reason why you and I admire Whiskey Jack so much. It's going to go back to something strangely enough my father brought up, and I didn't realize it was biblical till a long time till I read it. It's a verse talking about excuses are a sin. Make your yes, yes, your no's, no's. And Whiskey Jack never gives... It gives yes and no answers. Mm-hmm. Right there, he got an opportunity with some things were going in my mind, but it's like, nope, the answer's no. It don't matter. The answer's no. You and I both love people that give yes and no answers over excuses.
Yeah. Corlat joined them and said, "A strange young man, the one known as Anaster." The two Malazans turned at her words. Dujek asked, "Does that surprise you?" She shrugged and said, "There was much hidden within the darkness of his soul, High Fist. More than just a soldier's face. He could not bear leading his army. Could not bear to see the starvation, the loss and desperation, and so was resolved to send it to its death, to absolute annihilation, as an act of mercy, no less, to relieve the suffering. For himself he committed crimes that could only be answered with death, execution at the hands of those survivors among his victims. But not a simple death. He seeks something more. He seeks damnation as his sentence, an eternity of damnation. I cannot fathom such self-loathing. Whiskey Jack thought I can, for I feel as if I am tottering on the very edge of that steep slope myself. One more misstep." This was an unexpected turn of events.
Yeah.
I think you and I touched on how Anaster was yet another victim in this, a product of the environment that he grew up in. Now, hearing that he hated himself and sought to end it for those suffering within the Teniscowry adds a dimension to his personality that makes it even more sad. I'm not saying that any of his actions were okay, just that he is a tragic figure and one that should be pitied in this case.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And something that just kind of dawns on me when we're talking about this is that when she brings up the fact that, he was trying to end the suffering of the Teniscowry, it's like, do you think he was more surprised than anyone else when they kept winning and kept going? Was he hoping that they died first rapidly? And then that would have been it. And they just kept going. And this nastiness just kept going for probably years. It had to go on for years.
Yeah, it has been going on for years because it started before he was born.
Yeah.
And he's in his teens now.
Yeah, I'm assuming, 16 to 18 at least?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
You think the same age as Perrin? Strangely enough, because that's what I'm assuming Talk is.
Not that old. Perrin's in his 20s.
Same age? Okay.
14 sticks out to me for some reason.
Okay. You're probably right. It's
pretty young.
Probably something that popped out.
Yeah, mid-teens.
Agreed.
Whiskey Jack looked away towards the Malazan legions massed on the distant ridge. The sun flashing from armor and weapons was blinding, making his eyes water. Dujek moved his horse away, rejoining Artanthos, Brood, and Calor, leaving Whiskey Jack alone with Corlat. She reached up, touched his gauntleted hand. He could not meet her gaze, continued studying the motionless lines of his soldiers. Corlat murmured, "My love, those women, they were not defenseless. The power they drew on came from the warren of chaos itself. My lord's initial attack was intended to destroy them. Instead, it but left them momentarily stunned. They were recovering, and in their awakened power, they would have unleashed devastation, madness, and death for your army. This entire day could have been lost."
I think that goes to answer what we were saying about, I think that was Dragnippers, the backup plan. He intended to kill him in that first pass.
Yeah, agreed. Whiskey Jack grimaced and said, "I do not rail at necessity." Corlat said, "It seems you do." Whiskey Jack said, "War has its necessities, Corlat, and I have always understood that, always known the cost. But this day, by my own hand, I have realized something else. War is not a natural state. It is an imposition, and a damned unhealthy one. Within its rules, we willingly yield our humanity. Speak not of just causes, worthy goals. We are takers of life, servants of Hood, one and all." Corlat said, "The women of the Dead Seed would have killed hundreds, perhaps thousands, Whiskey Jack." Whiskey Jack said, "And I have commanded the same in my time, Corlat. What difference is there between us?" Corlat said, "You are not afraid of the questions that follow such acts, those that you willingly ask of yourself. Perhaps you see that as self-destructive ruthlessness, but I see it as courage, a courage that is extraordinary. A man less brave would have left my lord to his unseemly task." I really like the point that she's making here. Those people that are willing to recognize the situation and bother to ask the question of whether this is the right path, or those that you want in leadership. Yes, they will need to make tough choices, but they at least understand the ramifications of their choices, and that allows them to properly evaluate their behavior.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And I'm assuming this is one of the reasons, of course, why she is in love with him, because these are the qualities that Rake has, her lord has. So why wouldn't she key off of that and feel something that she likes in him?
Do you think Rake thinks about this in the same way that Whiskey Jack does?
Not to the same extent, but it's those qualities are very similar to each other. I don't think Rake's afraid to ask himself the tough questions if he's screwed up or something like that. So at least that's what I'm assuming, because he's a good leader. And all these, like, and I'm like you, it's like these are the people that you want in charge, people that aren't afraid to kind of beat themselves up a little bit over some hard decisions made. I like seeing some recrimination with Whiskey Jack. It makes him very human, and it makes you realize, okay, he's human. He's just like all of us. He wrestles with these horrible decisions he's had to make, but at the same time, I admire his ability to make quick decisions. Hard, quick decisions.
I guess with Rake, we never really get an inner monologue from him, so we don't know what type of questions he's asking himself. But I guess his behaviors indicate what he's thinking, partially.
Yeah, that's kind of how I take it. If he behaves like this, he's probably a pretty decent feller.
Whiskey Jack said, "These are pointless words, Corlat. The army standing over there has witnessed its commander committing murder." Corlat's hissing retort shocked him. She said, "Do not dare underestimate them." Whiskey Jack said, Corlat interrupted. "I've come to know many of your soldiers, Whiskey Jack. They are not fools. Perhaps many of them, if not most, are unable to articulate their fullest understanding, but they understand nonetheless. Do you not think that they, each in his or her own way, have faced the choice you faced this morning, the knife-point turn of their lives, and every one of them still feels the scar within them?" Whiskey Jack said, "I see little." Corlat again interrupted. "Whiskey Jack, listen to me. They witnessed. They saw, in fullest knowing. Damn you, I know this, for I felt the same. They hurt for you. With every brutal blow, they felt the old wounds within them resonate in sympathy. Commander, your shame is an insult. Discard it, or you will deliver unto your soldiers the deepest wound of all." He stared down at her. After a long moment, he said, "We're a short-lived people. We lack such complexity in our lives." Corlat said, "Bastard. Remind me never again to apologize to you." Quick reminder, since we covered this last week, Corlat had started their conversation with the line, "One assumes a lack of complexity in the people whose lives are so short," and it was meant as an apology. Whiskey Jack is in a negative mental spiral here, and now he's throwing words back at Corlat to try to fight back against her attempts to help ease his burden.
Yeah, he just really, for the moment, he just really wants to shoulder this alone, and it saddens me because I want him to take the help from her, at least take the comfort from her.
It feels like he wants to be in the mindset that he's in, and he's not going to listen to anybody that's trying to talk him out of it.
Yeah, agreed.
He's chosen this attitude right now.
Always with the negative waves, Moriarty.
Whiskey Jack looked back once more at the Malazan legions and muttered, "I still fear to face them at close range." Corlat said, "The distance between you and them has already closed, Whiskey Jack. Your army will follow you into the abyss, should you so command." Whiskey Jack said, "The most frightening thought uttered thus far today." She made no reply to that. Whiskey Jack thought, war's imposition, of extremities. Harsh, yet simple. It is no place for humanity, no place at all. He said, Dujek was displeased. Corlat said, Dujek wants to keep his army alive. Whiskey Jack's head snapped around. Her eyes regarded him, cool, engaging. Whiskey Jack said, "I have no interest in usurping his authority." Corlat said, "You just did, Whiskey Jack. Lasine's fear of you be damned. The natural order has reasserted itself. She could handle Dujek. That's why she demoted you and put him in charge. Gods, you can be so dense at times." He scowled and said, "If I am such a threat to her, why didn't she—" He stopped, closed his mouth, and thought, "Oh, Hood. Pale. Darujistan. It wasn't the bridge burners she wanted destroyed. It was me." If true, that's insane. Throw away your best fighting force simply because their commander is the strongest commander to usurp the throne. And I can see Lasine's logic, though. The bridge burners are loyal to Whiskey Jack, not necessarily the Malazan Empire. And Whiskey Jack could be pulled along into a position where he would be forced to take the throne, even if he doesn't want it.
Parts of me feels that this is true, but parts of me like, wait a minute. What about all that talk about the outlawing of the certain group, just to so they were working together with the Empress this whole time? So what's true?
What's true about why the bridge burners were getting killed?
Yeah. Was that really the thing? I mean, I can believe that, but it's just kind of like with the outlawing of Dujak's group and the bridge burners are in that group. So was that to be done surreptitiously? I guess it could. Oh, good golly. I guess it does work out quite well. They were in the tunnels underneath, so they could be wiped out easily and given a natural excuse for having been wiped out by the tunnels collapsing or whatever reason. Okay, never mind. I could see it totally being true. Never mind. Okay, I'll hush. I just worked myself through it.
Yeah, the only reason they got out of there was because Fiddler had a bad feeling.
Yeah, Fiddler had that feeling. Okay, wow.
Corlat said, "Guard your trust, my love. It may be that your belief in honor is being used against you." Whiskey Jack felt himself go cold inside. He thought, oh, Hood. Hood's marvel balls on an anvil.
I actually had that particular curse highlighted. Oh.
I was thinking, what can Whiskey Jack do with this knowledge? He's already upset about the actions he was forced to take on this day. Now he's going to feel responsible for the deaths of all the bridge burners on top of that?
Yeah. And this is a really hard and great question. I don't know what to do with this info yet. Like I said, I just had to work myself through that one right just less than 2 minutes ago. I'm like, I don't know what to do with that. Wow. If you thought he was really down and out about killing these people, it's like he just hit home that, wow, yeah, she killed them people trying to get to me. Okay, that's really going to make him feel a lot better.
Elsewhere within Brood's camp, Call made his way down the gentle slope towards the Mibes wagon. 30 paces to the right were the last of the Trigal Trade Guild's carriages, a group of shareholders throwing bones on a tarp nearby. Messengers rode in the distance, coming from or returning to the main army's position a league to the southwest. Murillo sat with his back to one of the Reeve's wagon wheels, eyes closed. They opened upon Call's arrival. Call crouched down beside him and asked, "How does she fare?" Murillo said, "It is exhausting to see her suffer those nightmares. They are endless. Tell me the news." Call said, "Well, Krupp and Silver Fox haven't been seen since yesterday, nor have those 2 Marines Whiskey Jack had guarding the Mibes' daughter. As for the battle," Call looked away, squinting southwestward, and said, "It was short-lived. Animander Rake assumed his soul-taken form. A single pass dispersed the Teniscari. Anaster was captured, and, the mages in his service were executed." Murillo said, "Sounds unpleasant." Call said, "By all reports it was. In any case, the peasants are fleeing back to Kapustan, where I doubt they will be much welcome. It's a sad fate indeed for those poor bastards." This also surprised me. They go to Kapustan, where they ate part of the population, and that's pure desperation right there.
Absolutely.
I wonder if the women of the Dead Seed being executed has broken some type of spell that was held on them.
That could very well be. Something could have been kind of holding them in check, keeping them there, and it's like now that they've just lost all control, people wake up and see someone running, and it's like, everyone else sees someone else running, they start running the same direction.
Murillo asked, "She's been forgotten, hasn't she?" Call did not need to ask for elaboration. He said, "A hard thing to swallow, but it does seem that way." Murillo said, "Outlived her usefulness, and so discarded." Call said, "I cling to a faith that this is a tale not yet done, Murillo." Murillo said, "We are the witnesses, here to oversee the descent, not else, Call. Krupp's assurances are nothing but wind. And you and I, we are prisoners of this unwelcome circumstance, as much as she is, as much as that addled Reeve woman who comes by to comb her hair." Call slowly swung to study his old friend and asked, "What do you suggest we do?" Shrugging, Murillo growled, "What do most prisoners do sooner or later?" Call said, "They try to escape." Murillo said, "Aye." Call said nothing for a long moment, then he sighed and said, "And how do you propose we do that? Would you just leave her, alone, untended?" Murillo said, "Of course not. No, we take her with us." Call asked, "Where?" Murillo exclaimed, "I don't know, anywhere, so long as it's away." Call said, "And how far will she need to go to escape those nightmares?" Murillo said, "We need only find someone willing to help her, Call. Someone who does not judge a life by expedience and potential usefulness." Call said, "This is an empty plain, Murillo." Murillo said, "I know." Call added, "Whereas in Kapustan," Murillo's eyes narrowed. He said, "By all accounts, it's little more than rubble." Call said, "There are survivors, including priests." Murillo snorted and said, "Priests? Self-serving confidence artists, swindlers of the gullible, deceivers of..." Call said, "Murillo, there are exceptions to that." Murillo said, "I've yet to see one." Dude, I was thinking, who hurt you, Murillo?
Yeah, exactly. Someone that definitely does not like somebody, I'm assuming it's some clerical abuse suffered at someone's hands. Maybe.
You got fleeced by some priest casting a spell or something, who knows?
Something, yeah.
Cull said, "Perhaps this time. My point is, if we're to escape this with her, we've a better chance of finding help in Kapustan than out here in this wasteland." Murillo said, "Saltoan." Cull interrupted, "Is a week or more away, longer with this wagon. Besides, the city is Hood's crusted navel incarnate. I wouldn't take Rallick Nom's axe-wielding mother to Saltoan." That's another good one. Hood's crusted navel incarnate. Like that.
Oh, dude, that's nasty. I love it. I love it.
Murillo sighed and said, Ralik Nam. Call asked, what of him? Murillo said, I wish he were here. Call asked, why? Murillo said, so he could kill someone. Anyone. The man's a wonder at simplifying matters. Call grunted, then said, simplifying matters. Wait until I tell him that one. Hey, Ralik, you're not an assassin, you know. You're just a man who simplifies.
Oh, that's great, dude.
Murillo said, well, it's a moot point in any case, since he disappeared. Call said, he's not dead. Murillo asked, how do you know? Call said, I just know. So, Murillo, do we wait until Kapustan? Murillo said, agreed, and once there, we follow the example of Krupp and Silverfox. We slip away, vanish. Hood knows, I doubt anyone will notice, much less care. Call hesitated, then said, Murillo, if we find someone who can do something for the Maib, well, it's likely to be expensive. Murillo shrugged and said, I've been in debt before. Call said, as have I. So long as it's understood that this will likely mean our financial ruin, and all that might be achieved is a kinder end to her life. Murillo said, a worthwhile exchange then. Call did not ask for another affirmation of his friend's resolve. He knew Murillo too well for that. He thought, it's not but coin, isn't it? No matter the amount, a fair exchange to ease an old woman's suffering, one way or the other. For at least we will have cared, even if she never again awakens and thus knows nothing of what we do. Indeed, it is perhaps better that way, cleaner, simpler. I was thinking these are some pretty stand-up guys, willing to give up everything they have to help someone that they barely know ease her suffering.
I know it. I love these fellows too, and it's this, of course, goes back to to the Gardens of the Moon. I love their loyalty to Call, and that it shows what kind of people that Murillo was, and so I really love these fellows.
The howl echoed as if from a vast cavern. Echoed, folded in on itself, until the morning call became a chorus. Bestial voices in countless numbers. Voices that stripped away the sense of time itself, that made eternity into a single now. The voices of winter. Yet they came from the south, from the place where the tundra could go no further, where the trees were no longer ankle-high, but rose, still ragged, wind-torn and spindly, over her head, so that she could pass unseen, no longer towering above the landscape. Kin answered that howl. The pursuing beast still on her trail, yet losing her now, as she slipped among the black spruce. The boggy ground sucking hungrily at her bare feet, the black-stained water swirling thick and turgid as she waded chill pools. Huge mosquitoes swarmed her, each easily twice the size of those she knew on the Revi plain. Black flies crawled in her hair, bit her scalp. Round leeches like black spots covered her limbs. No thank you. This sounds like how you described Alaska in the summer, like the season of rot minus the heat. Still terrible.
Oh, I know it. It's just nasty. It's like you would think you at least get the break from the heat. It's kind of like, okay, it's at least more pleasant because it's not hot. No, it doesn't seem to matter. It's nasty.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. In her half-blind flight, she had stumbled into a spatulate antler, jammed in the crotch of two trees at eye level. The gouge a tine had made under her right cheek still trickled blood. She thought, it is my death that approaches. That gives me strength. I draw from that final moment, and now they cannot catch me. They cannot catch me. The cavern lay directly ahead. She could not yet see it, and there was nothing in the landscape to suggest a geology natural to caves, but the echoing howl was closer. She thought, the beast calls to me, a promise of death, I think, for it gives me this strength. It is my siren call. Darkness drew down around her, and she knew she had arrived. The cavern was a shaping of a soul lost within itself. The air was damp and cool. No insects buzzed or lit on her skin. The stone under the soles of her feet was dry. She could see nothing, and the howl had fallen silent. When she stepped forward, she knew it was her mind that moved, her mind alone, leaving her body questing out, seeking that chained beast. Someone said, "Who?" The voice startled her, a man's voice, muffled, taut with pain. The voice asked, "Who comes?" She did not know how to answer, and simply spoke the first words that came into her head. "It is I." He said, "I?" She said, A mother." The man's laugh grated harshly. He said, "Another game, then? You've no words, mother. You've never had them. You've whimpers and cries. You've warning growls. You've 100,000 wordless sounds to describe your need. That is your voice, and I know it well." She repeated herself, "A mother." He said, "Leave me. I am beyond taunting. I circle my own chain, here in my mind. This place is not for you. Perhaps in finding it, you think you've defeated my last line of defense. You think you now know all of me. But you've no power here. Do you know, I imagine seeing my own face as if in a mirror. But it's the wrong eye staring back at me. And worse, it's not even human. It took me a long time to understand, but now I do. You and your kind played with winter, Omtos Falak, but you never understood it. Not true winter, not the winter that is not sorcery, but born of the cooling earth, the dwindling sun, the shorter days and longer nights. The face I see before me, seer, it is winter's face, a wolf's, a god's. So, the Maib has finally met up with Talk.
Wow, that's wild. I like how they crossed their streams, man.
I'm really curious to see where this is going.
Yeah, big time.
The Maib said, my child knows wolves. Talk said, he does indeed. The Maib said, not he, she. I have a daughter. Talk said, confusing the rules defeats the game, seer, sloppy. The Maib said, I am not who you think I am. I am an old woman, of the Revi, and my daughter wishes to see me dead. But not a simple passage, not for me. No, she sent wolves after me, to rend my soul. They hunt my dreams, but here I have escaped them. I've come here to escape. Talk laughed again and said, the seer has made this my prison, and I know it to be so. You are the lure of madness, of strangers' voices in my head. I defy you. Had you known of my real mother, you might have succeeded, but your of my mind was ever incomplete. There is a god here, seer, crouched before my secrets, fangs bared. Not even your dear mother, who holds me so tight, dares challenge him. As for your Omtos Falak, he would have confronted you at the Warren's gate long ago. He would have denied it to you, Jagut, to all of you. But he was lost. And know this, I am helping him. I am helping him to find himself. He's growing aware, seer. The Maib faltered as despair stole through her. She said, I do not understand you. This was not the place she had believed it to be. She had indeed fled to another person's prison, a place of personal madness. She said, I came here for death. Talk said, you'll not find it. Not in these leathery arms. The Maib said, I am fleeing my daughter. Talk said, flight is an illusion. Even Mother here comprehends that. She knows I am not her child, yet she cannot help herself. She even possesses memories of a time when she was a true matron, a mother to a real brood, children who loved her, and other children who betrayed her, and left her to suffer for eternity. She never anticipated an escape from that, yet when she found herself free at last, it was to discover that her world had turned to dust. Her children were long dead, entombed in their barrows, for without a mother, they withered and died. She looked to you then, seer, her adopted son, and showed you your power, so that she could use it, to recreate her world. She raised her dead children. She set them to rebuilding the city, but it was all false. The delusion could not deceive her, could only drive her mad. And that is when you usurped her. Thus, her child has made her a prisoner once more. There is no escaping the paths of our lives, it seems. A truth you're not prepared to face, seer, not yet. The Maib whispered, my child has made me a prisoner as well. Is this the curse of all mothers? Talk said, it is the curse of love. I had highlighted this little exchange here in a previous read-through about the mother being the prisoner and it being a curse of love. Mm-hmm. As a parent, I feel this. I wouldn't call it a curse since that has more of a negative connotation, but I would categorize it more as a law of nature where we are designed to gravitate towards loving our children.
I agree. I think it's how it's designed to be. Not the negative connotation, the blessing side, shall we say.
Yeah, it's sad when situations arise where that's not the case.
Yes.
A faint howl rang through the dark air. Talk asked, hear that? This is my mate. She's coming. I looked for so long. And now she's coming. The voice had acquired a deeper timbre with these words. It seemed to be no longer the man's voice. That's an interesting change.
Yeah, curiouser and curiouser.
The words continued, and now I answer. His howl tore through her, flung her mind back, out of the cavern, out beyond the straggly forest, back onto the tundra's barren plain. The Maib screamed. Her wolves answered, triumphantly. They had found her once again. A hand touched her cheek. A voice said, gods, that was blood-curdling. A familiar voice, but she could not yet place it. Another man spoke. There is more to this than we comprehend, Murillo. Look at her cheek. Murillo said, she has clawed herself. Call said, she cannot lift her arms, friend. And look, the nails are clean. She did not inflict this wound on herself. Murillo said, then who did? I've been here all this time. Not even the old Reeve woman has visited since I last looked upon her, and there was no wound then. Call said, as I said, there is a mystery here. Murillo said, Call, I don't like this. Those nightmares, could they be real? Whatever pursues her in her dreams, are they able to physically damage her? Call said, we see the evidence. Murillo interrupted, though I scarce believe my own eyes. Call, this cannot go on. Call said, agreed, Murillo. First chance in Capustan. Murillo said, the very first. Let's move the wagon to the very front of the line. The sooner we reach the streets, the better. Call said, as you say. And thus the chapter ends.
Good chapter.
That was a dark section to this chapter.
Yeah, it was.
For standout moments, Rake's judgment of the women of the dead seed.
Dude, that was rough. I mean, it's not that it was, particularly gruesome. It's just that having to imprison them there is really rough. And that's just a tough scenario, man. I don't like seeing him having to wield that thing because I think it's a burden to him, to Rake.
Oh, yeah. It's the implication of the use of the sword.
Yeah.
I was baiting you with that one.
You got me with that one, dude. The only thing now you've got me thinking, the only thing I'm thinking is are we the tasty treats? Okay.
Whiskey Jack stepping in to stop Rake, then being forced to finish executing the remaining women of the dead seed before they regain their power.
Yeah, I feel so bad for Whiskey Jack here. And I don't know why. I think I do know why, but I always kind of forget this little moment here. This is just kind of one of those other stones added to what's going on here that kind of lays on me for some reason. More wounding.
Yeah, 'cause you like Whiskey Jack so much, to see him suffer this way, it's not enjoyable.
It's not fair, man. It's not fair.
Yeah, and then Whiskey Jack realizing that his soldiers witnessed him executing the women of the dead seed, and finding out that Rake was trying to spare him the burden to his soul for performing the executions.
Ouch, just like a double whammy on that one. That's just tough, man. Wow. Wow, it shall just come out now.
Corlat helping Whiskey Jack realize that the decimation of the bridge burners wasn't to get rid of the bridge burners, it was to get rid of Whiskey Jack.
What a reveal, dude. That's just massive. Another brilliance of these books is when you see them all put together as one piece. It's like, wow, this all snaps into place so beautifully. When you start seeing it like that, it's like, wow.
Yeah, this is how we started the series.
Yeah, exactly. That's where that's exactly where it starts. The Siege of Pale.
So we've been waiting this long to get that answer.
Yeah. Wow.
Call and Murillo planning to abscond with the Maib and potentially court financial ruin to ease her suffering.
Yeah, what stand-up fellas, man? What stand-up fellas? These guys are just, like you said, willing to just go for financial ruin just to help an old woman they've been kind of just tasked with looking after that all of a sudden it seems like no one cares about. And it's like, well, we didn't forget about her. I love these guys, man.
Yeah, they had no reason to even get involved with taking care of her.
No, none whatsoever.
But seemed like there was a need because nobody else was doing it.
Yeah, very much. What makes these fellas so endearing is that kind of stuff from them.
Yeah. The Maib meeting up with Talk and having a rather disjointed conversation. That was one of those kind of mind-melting weird sequences that's really hard to tell what's going on. They're talking across each other.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what either's talking about.
But what's great is that we do get some info out of that for Talk. But dude, I guess I just can't wait to get Talk out of that nightmare he's stuck in, man. This guy, so far, he's been like Fate's whipping boy.
Yeah. Lose an eye, get disfigured, go into the Warren of Chaos, get spit out in the middle of nowhere, get captured again, get crushed, turn into a twisted version of yourself, repeatedly healed, and all the pain. It's so bad.
Yeah. It's awful, man.
He's like if Opon had the Fool of Opon or something.
Yeah.
Like the person that gets all of the bad luck.
Yeah.
He's got that card, basically.
But yeah, so far it's him. Yeah, all bad luck.
Yeah, he doesn't deserve it, man. He's a good guy.
Agreed. We've every time, what little bit we've really been with him, I always love him. I guess the only freedom he had was running with that fast crowd, the Segulin Envy and Tool. Mm-hmm. And that's the only good time he had, but he was going to get squashed for sure. Hanging out with that bunch.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, the new voice that came from Talk. Something is within him.
Yeah. Is that the wolf spirit that is calling?
I don't know how much I can talk about this at this point in time, but
copy that.
Astute readers have probably put a bunch of stuff together at this point because there's been plenty of clues as to what's going on here.
Dude, what's with all the one-eyed guys, dude? What's with an Astra being one-eyed, too? I mean, we can ask that question. Strange things.
Mm-hmm. All right, great job tonight, Billy.
Hey, man, great episode, man. I love that we get to wrap up this chapter, and that I'm assuming that we're going to be hitting the road next week. You think heading down to where we're going to split up and go after these 2 campaigns now?
Next week, we go back to Kapustan.
Oh.
For the parlay.
Oh. All right. Okay.
The only reason I know that is because I did the notes today.
You said you got the notes. I haven't been there yet. So, okay, right on, dude. Right on.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
You got any final thoughts before we drop off here?
No, just really great episode, man. I love this. I love that we're finally kind of getting to see. Hopefully, we'll get Talk squared away. And the clutches of that nastiness, dude.
The poor guy needs something.
He needs a day at the beach, at least.
Yeah. All right, thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
See y'all next week.
We thank you all for joining us today.
Again, we really like to thank you for taking the time to be with us, and we've had a really great time talking about the topic today.
If you would like to support our show, you can find us at horsefrogproductions.com, where you can find our Patreon link. Depending on the platform you're listening from, it may also be in the episode description.
And if you'd like to contact us through email, it's at contact@horsefrogproductions.com.